Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley, continuing our positional previews as we count down to spring practice. We're right around the corner from Tennessee taking the field, and I'm excited. So many different storylines to follow as we go through this spring camp. But as always, do me a favor, go ahead and smash that like button just below. Just hit that little thumbs up. It's quick, it's free, it's easy, it helps the channel. Also, if you're new to the Talkin VAWLS Network, welcome. We're not experts, we're not insiders. We are fans just like you. So if you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe. Click that bell for notifications. You won't miss out when we go live or when we drop a video. Just a reminder, today is the day. March Madness kicks off today. Indy Kid and Dauber, because of schedules, are not going to be able to go live after the game. So we're going to have a watch party. And it's going to be a good old-fashioned fan call-in watch party. You guys are going to have to carry the show. So we will go live about 15 minutes before the game. I'll send out the invite. I'll send out the links to you guys that are members of the channel. If you don't want to miss out, hit that join button down below. Right beside subscribe should be a little button that says join. You can become a member of the channel, and you'll get an invite this afternoon. You can come on, hang out with me, and watch a little basketball. But as always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's go ahead and jump into this thing. Let's talk about this Tennessee defensive line. And this is a position group that we have talked about throughout, covering the linebackers, covering the secondary. I've mentioned the defensive line, and that is because it all starts up front for this football team. And you go back, rewind just a year ago, going into spring camp last year, it was a big question mark. Who was going to step up on the defensive line? When we're making videos, when we're talking about the Tennessee defense, we're talking more about Rodney Garner than we are the talent on the field. And the reason for that is, look at what we got. Look at the development. Look at the development of Matthew Butler. Look at the development of Caleb Tremblay. Those guys played a good football season, and it all starts with Coach Rodney Garner. So when I look at the talent that's returning this season, and yeah, they did lose a little bit. They lost Matthew Butler on the inside. They lost Caleb Tremblay. They lost Jaquan Blakely. Morven Joseph entered the transfer portal. But when I look at who's coming back, I get a little bit excited. There is some good talent when you look at the defensive line. You got some upperclassmen, guys like Latrell Bumpus, guys like Karat Garland, Arby Solomon, even Elijah Simmons, DeJoun Terry, Amari Thomas. There is a lot of upperclassmen on this Tennessee defensive line. So what excites me is taking that next step under Rodney Garner. I feel like they're in a better place top to bottom across the defensive line. And what can Rodney Garner get out of them? You know, when you look at the guys on the outside, your edge guys, a guy like Byron Young going into his senior season, a guy that we have hyped up for probably the last 2 years, waiting for him to break out. And I felt like he started to shine. He started to deliver, show a little bit of that promise towards the end of last year. Can he take the next step? Can he be that guy? Because again, going back to what I said, it all starts up front. We have questions in the secondary. We have some questions at linebacker. Which Juwan Mitchell are we going to get at linebacker? Both of those position groups can look a lot better if Tennessee can get some pressure on the quarterback. When you go back and look at the stats from last year, we were all talking about the tackles for loss, and that's great. I feel like Tennessee was really good in the run game, but when you look at sacks, they're around the middle of the pack, really more towards the bottom in the SEC. They came in at 8th in the SEC with 34 sacks. When you look at the top of the list, a team like Alabama, a team like Georgia, Alabama had 57 sacks on the season, Georgia with 49. Again, Tennessee comes in 8th in the SEC at 34. So while the defensive line did some really good things last year, they did some really good things, especially in the run game. Again, the tackles for loss, I think they were somewhere in like the top 7, I believe it was, in all of college football for tackles for loss. That's what this defense needs. But to take the next step, to be better, to have an opportunity to, you talk about when can Tennessee get back to Atlanta. This defensive line has an opportunity to make this I think when I sit back and look at the grand scheme of things, obviously we know what we're going to get on offense. The offense is going to score points. It is what it is. It's Josh Heupel, proven track record. They are going to score points on offense. But when I look at the grand scheme of things, when I look at the overall picture, I think this defense can take a step forward. Are they going to be as good as we want them to be? I don't think so. Probably not. But as long as they keep taking a step forward, and when I talk about this defensive line and adding depth, building depth, turning over the roster, it starts with recruiting. And when you look at what Rodney Garner was able to add on this defensive line in the class of 22, Jordan Phillips is a guy that showed up as an early enrollee, and they say he already looks the part. He practices. He does things the right way. And that's when you talk about Josh Heupel changing the culture. A lot of these kids that we're seeing Josh Heupel bring in, they're not just athletes. They're not just football players. They are well-rounded young men. And that plays a huge role when you look at team chemistry and what this coaching staff is trying to do. Another one that Rodney Garner's bringing in, Tyree West. As I run through these freshmen, I see guys that you question, can they get on the field as a freshman? They have that type of talent. Tyree West is a guy that I could totally see getting an opportunity to play as a true freshman. On the edge, on the outside, Joshua Josephs and James Pierce. James Pierce, a guy that got bumped by On3 to a 5-star. That's a big-time thing for a guy coming off the edge, for a defensive lineman to get bumped up to a 5-star. Number 1 player in the state of North Carolina. Number 2 edge rusher in the country. James Pierce is a guy that when you talk about what Rodney Garner wants to do with this defensive line, he wants to add depth. He wants to be able to follow that mold like we see at Alabama and Georgia, where they're rotating defensive linemen constantly, staying fresh. That allows you to really get after the quarterback. When you're able to rotate 8-10 guys, keep a fresh guy on the field at all times. I think James Pierce is a guy that I'm excited to see what he does throughout the spring. He's a guy that I think he can get on the field as a true freshman. I think he has that type of talent. Does a guy like James Pierce push Byron Young, Roman Harrison? Tyler Barron is another guy that I've called out by name previously. Tyler Barron needs to take that next step. When I look at the total defensive line top to bottom, who are the guys that I look to really step up? Guys that we're going to be talking about. One of these guys talked about when he entered the portal, his athletic ability, what I thought he could do under Rodney Garner, and that's DeJoun Terry. And I feel like he is a guy that kind of worked through the season, got better, worked his way onto the field, got more playing time, really started to show out later in the year. What does he look like after a full offseason with Rodney Garner, a full spring camp, a full fall camp, another summer workout? What does DeJoun Terry look like? Another one is Elijah Simmons. Those are the two guys that I have circled on the inside. DeJoun Terry, Elijah Simmons. Omari Thomas is another one. Omari Thomas is a guy that started to really play good football down the stretch. The exciting part to me, and again, it's more about Rodney Garner than it is these players. It's not one of. Rodney Garner is the best defensive line coach in the country, bar none, no questions asked. It's not even up for debate. Rodney Garner got more out of less last year. Going into spring practice last year, that defensive line was such a concern. We saw in the orange and white game, they got pushed around. That was the report coming out of camp. Every practice, all we heard about, defensive line got whipped again. They got whipped again. It was a huge concern moving into the fall. But we saw a defensive line that came together. They bought in. They listened to Coach Garner, and we saw him play some pretty good football. Way better than we expected in 2020. We got way more out of the defensive line in 2021 than any of us expected. Who's going to step up and be that Matthew Butler? Who on this defensive line is going to step up and take that leadership role? Is it a senior? Is it a guy like Latrell Bumpus? Is he going to step up and take that role? Who's going to be the leader of this defensive line? Again, it all starts up front. I'm excited to see what type of progress this defensive line makes going into 2022. Excited to see what they do in spring practice. You guys know what to do. As always, hit that thumbs up if you haven't. Hit that comment section. Let me know your thoughts. You think this defensive line can be improved from a year ago? Hit that comment section. Let me know. As always, check out the official merchandise of the Talkin' VAWLS Network. Go to bonfire.com/store/TalkinVAWLS. Any and all support greatly appreciated. Pick up some merchandise. Again, bonfire.com/store/TalkinVAWLS. YouTube.com/Talkin VAWLS. Just a reminder about the watch party this afternoon. Going to watch some Tennessee basketball together live on air. Fan call-in show. I hope you'll tune in for that. And then next Wednesday, 7 p.m., we're going to do a spring preview. Even though Tennessee starts practice on Tuesday, we're going to go live Wednesday night with a spring preview, so I hope you'll tune in for that. But that's going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.